Okay, it's time for me to spill the tea. Oops. I got the sunset in the background. Let me start by saying that no money holds any value over me in my life and my truth. This is 100% truth from my mouth to your ears, all verifiable through paperwork and documentation. Please share it if you believe in me and yourself. I have been lied to too many times, and so have you. The truth is important to me and my understanding, and I think you deserve to know the truth too. However, if you do not like the truth, then you need to shut this off right now. First, in the beginning of my story, I was offered a contract in 2008 by Sid Wilson, number 0 of the band Slipknot, as I am originally from Iowa, and he signed me to Tough Bong Records. If you were around me as Izzy Dunfore in 2011, you know that I was sued by him for $207,204. But what I've never talked about is why. Real documentation. Let's take this off too. Sid wanted to sell my name and likeness as Izzy Dunfore to Strange Music. But when he told me that, I didn't know any of them on a personal level, so I wasn't interested in becoming a member of Strange Music's roster under Tech N9ne. And the bigger reason for that was that I wrote the hook for No Can Do in 2003, and Tech N9ne recorded and released it on Ever Ready, The Religion, as the lead track with an artist who I had never heard of at that time, named Krizz Kaliko. So let's fast forward 8 years and start with the Talk Upon It tour. I was charged $10,000 for participating in that entire tour, 36 shows in 39 days. But right from the start, I was told not to tell anyone what I had paid because they were charging everyone else $12,000. I questioned that and I thought it was dishonest, but I didn't talk about it as they had asked me not to. This was all under the Strange Music record label. Next, Krizz Kaliko supposedly had issues with Strange Music. He wasn't signing a new contract with them. But suddenly, the Red Rocks performance where Travis came out in front of a sold-out crowd and offered Krizz a new contract, which he signed on the spot, supposedly. But in truth, that was a completely scripted occurrence. After that next year with Strange, that he signed the contract for, Krizz Kaliko supposedly decided that he was breaking the connection with Strange Music again. But this time, starting his own company called Earhouse Inc. And he pretended to become an independent artist on his own terms. However, that was a lie. I was contacted by Krizz Kaliko to support him in his initial 3 performances in Colorado, where I was living at the time. This was immediately after he released the single Wait, which I was a fan and am a fan of. And I do also enjoy Krizz Kaliko music. So I agreed to pay him $1,500 per show and even booked him for my own Iz and Krizz Christmas show in my original home area of Newton, Iowa, in which I agreed to pay him $2,500 for his appearance as the headliner. In December, on the very day we were to have 3 more tour dates in support of Earhouse Inc., Krizz caught COVID. supposedly, and documented by film his entire sickness while postponing all 3 of our upcoming scheduled tour dates. Yet he still made it to mine a week before Christmas. The issue I had was that I had already paid him in full the $4,500 for the set of 3 shows, and he still wanted me to pay him for the Christmas show on top of that. I raised concerns about how he was playing with my money, but I honored my commitment. And I paid him not only for that show in Newton, Iowa, but I also paid him in full for a collaboration which was to be completed within 6 months of payment. The song became known as In the meantime, I'm sitting with a sum of money in Krizz Kaliko's pocket where he has completed 1 of 3 contracted obligational agreements, and rather than shift my money back to me, he kept it through March. And when he rescheduled those 3 appearances, which were West Chicago, Columbus, Ohio, which ended up being Dayton, Ohio, and also Indianapolis, Indiana, I assume he needed my money to pay for Christmas presents for his family. Because of that assumption, I just let it go, so he could have what he needed because I am his friend. So I thought. Those next 3 shows were good. They happened in March, as there were no issues in performances other than the response I got was much greater than what Krizz Kaliko received. Crystal even came onto the stage during my set in Indianapolis, which was the final of the 3, and she took my bottle of tequila that I drank between songs right off of the stage. Right in the middle of my set. She told me that the venue owner told her to take it, and I questioned that. Now later that night, in Indianapolis, Indiana, behind the venue, Krizz was especially taken back when the security guard was talking with him out behind that venue, and he stopped talking with Krizz when he saw me approaching, and he told me how I blew his mind with my performance. Samuel, or Krizz, didn't like that I was getting more love than him at his headlining show. It was obvious to me, and soon after, he started wearing a cowboy hat and stealing my idea. Again. Only he isn't authentic like me, so it doesn't hit the same. You might agree with that. You might not. Now, I thought everything was on the up and up until enter Daz Exotic, who was featured in a comedic role and a piece of Krizz's newest video at the time with T-Pain called BB Slide. In that video, Daz Exotic becomes angry at Krizz for smashing a cake in his face. Now, when Krizz made his verse for the song which was the collab that I paid for, Krizz called me up and tried to get me to give him another $8,000 to have him write my verse for me. That infuriated me. Nobody writes my material but me. Hard no, Krizz, or Samuel. He tried for an hour to talk me into it, citing how he needed a new bathroom in his basement for his bandmates to use so they didn't have to go upstairs in his house to go potty. And he also said that he hated how other artists were putting out collabs with him that suck. I thought, too bad for them and too bad for you, Samuel, as I am not furnishing your home, and maybe you should pick better talent to work with rather than selling your stems to everyone. Makes sense, right? Well, around that same time, Daz Exotic began doing his own podcast, calling out Krizz Kaliko, getting fans, including myself, riled up and angry, and it didn't feel very authentic to me at all. And then, after he had made a couple episodes for his podcast, he took and used my picture from a Krizz Kaliko show and started referring to me as old and washed up. This was a really big mistake on their part. So I called Crystal, who is the acting manager for Earhouse and Krizz Kaliko, and I confronted her about Daz Exotic being their friend. And I asked her why he was attacking me and my character when I had done nothing but support them in their musical goals. She got angry with me and said that Daz Exotic was acting independently and trying to make a name off of Krizz Kaliko. And I called her bluff. I told her, you don't have someone in your video who isn't aligned with you, especially if they are trying to extort your own attention by making false statements about you or your affiliates. She then told me that I was wrong, that I was the problem for asking them to work with me, and that Krizz Kaliko was denying my request to allow me to fund a video for my song in collaboration that I paid for in full with him called So that's what I said. How about a little drink? My microphone gun. Now, this was around the same time when Stop the World was coming up. And if you know me, I've been working on a series of albums called The World Is Done For. But I supported his effort anyway, bought 3 VIP tickets, and gave them to his fans for free for helping promote our song, with one of the recipients being a 20-year colleague of mine who has filmed several videos and appearances in my career, who also filmed the Izz and Krizz Christmas show. And we have always had a positive working relationship. When I showed up to Stop the World, I was treated like I was there to carry their equipment and make things easier on them. I wasn't. But cameraman Cody McKinney, my friend and up to then cameraman for hire, did everything they asked him to do, including carry all of their merch to their van. And in return, they started asking him to do their camera work, which at first, I thought that was perfect for him. I was happy for his opportunity because I felt like I was helping Earhouse and helping Cody at the same time, and in return, hoping that this would also help my career. However, I was wrong. I helped Krizz Kaliko get even more work after that by getting him booked onto my friend Ryan's festival that he was throwing in his mother's honor, Mama O Fest, as she had just passed away recently, and she loved me and she loved music of all kinds. I miss her. I got him $3,500 to make his appearance, and I have not talked to Krizz Kaliko since, because Crystal acted like they were doing me the favor by doing this show. But back to the matter. Cody the cameraman today is turned against me because he is now working with Krizz Kaliko, and so much so that he didn't give any attention to my wedding, which he filmed for me and which I hired him to complete for a fee of $1,000. And he has produced a complete zero, a big fat nothing for my life-changing event, which happened in 2022. This is 2026. Which I hired him because I thought he was my friend. Again, so I thought. I was wrong. His refusal to give us our filmed wedding day, as discussed and agreed upon, has made my wife cry. And that's when everything changed for me. Krizz Kaliko has lied to all of his fans, pretending that he has gone independent of Strange Music. He hasn't. And the original Earhouse Incorporated is now non-existent, turning itself into the new Earhouse Technologies, in which is just another fake front to the truth. That he is owned and indentured to Tech N9ne and Strange Music, which is also a fake company. The bat is Aaron Dantes Yates, but the snake is Travis O'Gwyn, owner of all these men and their likenesses. I started digging in deeper once Samuel, or Chris, denied me a video for the song but made a weak half-assed video, King of the World, basically portraying himself in a plastic crown as Jesus Christ walking on water, while the Jaron Benton part of the song was just a lyric video, and Jaron Benton wasn't even in the video at all. I had to ask myself, how can this be? I have proposed to pay this artist to appear in a full-blown production in which I intended to use the same cameraman who he was now working with and had been introduced to through me personally. And I need to say that I do not take credit for Cody being a Krizz Kaliko and Tech N9ne fan, because I had absolutely nothing to do with that whatsoever. I funded the song, offered to fund the video in full, and my hope was to help the both of us artists and Cody the cameraman be successful in those areas and efforts. Krizz Kaliko invited me onto his podcast after all of this had transpired. I respectfully refused his offer. All of my experiences combined led me down the path that I have found to be verified as the Strange Music label is only used as a front. Or in other words, a company that all production is run through to funnel money into the real companies behind the Strangeland campus, the touring vehicle fleet that only Tech N9ne gets access to, while the other artists flounder and have troubles working on tour because their vehicles are trash. And most importantly, the distribution and royalty rights to all the masters of all the songs from all the artists that Tech N9ne by Optic looks to be in command over. However, he is just another contracted artist, obligated by Travis as Tech N9ne, who owns a very small percentage of his own work, which is why he never stops touring, making it look like he is supporting his signed artists, leveraging the loyalty and love of his manufactured and very manipulated fan base, while truthfully, he is ripping them all off, keeping their art and efforts contained under him so he continues to reign as the King of Darkness. While other artists, probably more talented than Tech N9ne, fail beyond recognition because they are not even allowed to write or record their own material, but only songs approved by Travis O'Guin himself. These tactics have been used against you from the very beginning in 1999. This is the bad part. These songs that only Travis O'Guin can approve and give permission to record through the fake Strange Music label and made to mimic mental illnesses in the artists, whereas this is a fabricated lie to extract emotional ties to the underdog, creating a fan base for not only Tech N9ne by the Strange Music label, but also by the Earhouse Technologies company, doubling the intake of profits by making people purchase and support Krizz Kaliko as if he is struggling to escape the clutches of the very label he is still indentured to by contract. If you think this is inaccurate, I ask you to do your own research into Tyrant Holdings and Menacing Holdings, nice names by the way, which are the two companies that Travis owns and operates Tech N9ne as a product through. And the real way that Aaron Yates has been so optically successful in the underground of hip hop music, while he signs the top artists who think Strange Music is interested in supporting their products and their goals. Because why else would they want to sign them if they weren't? Right? Wrong. Strange Music is a production company that looks like Tech is a 50-50 owner with Travis of. However, that is not the truth either. Tech N9ne gets to show himself giving tours to cameras to give the impression that all that Strange campus has to offer belongs to him, while in real life, he is completely ripping off the people he signs, which offers him a commission as a salesman to their contractual obligations, which entrap those artists into only being able to use Travis's companies to make their music recordings, music videos, and his distribution line so that all the money flows through Strange Music into the real businesses designed to be behind the curtain that is Tech N9ne, and completely operating under a great big front and lie that somehow Tech N9ne, which is the product, but not Aaron Dantes Yates, is some superstar and has ascended to the top of the underground because of his rap skills, which is also a great big lie, used only to manipulate fans into repetitive sales. Money, 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 the devil. Great artists that you believe are being genuine in their musicianship and songs are complete fabrications based on mental health issues, pharmaceutical addiction trends, and the idea is that you can relate to these people, which you should not. They are contractually obligated to only use these ideas, distributed to them through Travis's companies, Tyrant and Menacing Holdings, using the front of Strange Music, which is faced and represented by the product, Tech N9ne, in which the man Aaron Yates is a partner in, but does not truthfully own 50% of, but acts as a salesman by example and false stature, tricking artists into signing their rights and artistic creativity over to the machine that is Travis O'Guin. While none of his owned acts ever get out from underneath his rule of ownership, leaving the fans confused every time another artist fails in real life, while seemingly getting the opportunity of a lifetime on the surface. Beyond the lies of the label, the ideas behind the songs and the music itself are based on real pharmaceutical trends in mental illnesses, traumatic experiences, and the connection and emotional attachment that having those moments and or thoughts that seem to be in relation to another being with the same experience. Examples of this are Krizz Kaliko's anxiety, vitiligo, and body positivity image, King ISO with his sexual molestation, mental facility stays, popping pharmaceuticals for relief, suicide, and thoughts of self-harm. And then, when real life struggles happens in an artist's life, Travis does everything he can to cover it up with his finances, like Tech N9ne and his naked pics of 17-year-old girls, Ritz beating his girlfriend. Or how about the song Areolas, done at all ages shows, where there are kids in the audience and they're saying, "Who? Areola," trying to get all these women to basically degrade themselves in public in front of children. Not okay. If Travis can't cover it up through either finances or lawyers in his network, he releases said problematic artists and leaves them to fend for themselves, which is a double-layered deceit and dishonesty from a label who makes a person sign their life over to them, yet abandons them at first sight of less than the expectation of complete financial exploitation. I am giving you this truth, which you can verify for yourself. Don't believe me. I'm just another man, just like you, a fan of music. I am interested in starting a crew of people who are genuinely about bringing light and love to shine through the darkness that has led so many of us astray. I am one of you, tricked by a disgusting lie and led to believe that they were like me. I want to develop a crew who will not prey on the mental health of people who ultimately are looking to belong to something larger than themselves, which will offer a feeling and sense of belonging to, in which Strange Music is the opposite of, in which Izzy Dunfore Inc. will be a promoter of, with the idea that music is medicine, not to be used as the weapon that Tech N9ne and Travis O'Guin have been using for years as a means to extract emotional energy and ultimately financial gains from the heartbreak and trauma of good people all over our country. I want to bring the truth back to creativity and the music scene, obliterating what is known as the underground, and use their very own words in a very new context. Fuck the industry. Thank you for listening to me. I am Lucas Lloyd Hewitt. I am the bringer of light. This has been the truth. Thank you for listening to me. Have a blessed day.